If you don't feel comfortable writing an offer without a home inspection, don't do it, and I certainly won't recommend it. In this hot seller's market, you may be told by your agent that you need to skip a home inspection if you want to buy a home. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about that. Is it true? Why do you need to skip a home inspection? And are there any scenarios where it could be beneficial to skip a home inspection? And if you do have to buy a home without a home inspection, what are some of the ways that you can offset that risk? Let's get into it. My name is Ryan Renner, and I'm a real estate agent with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, the Good Life Group here in Omaha. Now, first, let me say, I never will recommend to a client that they forego a home inspection. Now, what I will tell a client is, in this market, if you are looking to buy a home that has a lot of activity, that has 3, 4, 10 offers, one way to make your offer extremely competitive is to skip the home inspection. Now, it's pretty obvious why a seller would want you to skip the home inspection, but let's talk about that briefly. So when we are writing offers for clients, we tell them if you want to be competitive when there are lots of offers, you want to write as clean of an offer as possible. And so what exactly does that mean? Well, the cleanest of all offers is generally going to be an all-cash offer with no contingencies that will close when the seller wants to close. And so if you can write the cleanest offer possible, you stand the best shot at getting the home. Now, one of those contingencies that a seller doesn't always want to see is a home inspection. And that's because a home inspection is a way for the buyer to potentially beat up the seller after the inspection is done. It's also a way for the buyer to walk away from the contract if there are a bunch of problems that are found, or even if there are only a couple problems found. So with a home inspection contingency, it just gives a little bit more uncertainty to the seller, and that's why they don't really like seeing it in offers. Now, as a buyer, you generally want to have a home inspection because it limits your risk. So when we do a home inspection, what's really important and key is finding anything major that is wrong with the house. Now, some buyers are more picky and they are going to want everything done that is found on the home inspection, everything fixed. Now, most buyers are pretty reasonable, so getting a home inspection isn't a huge deal as long as the home is in decent shape. So what are those major components that most people focus on when doing the home inspection? Well, it's usually the roof, the heating and AC system, the foundation, as well as the mainline sewer, which wasn't as common in the past, but especially with older homes is really important. Now, if something is wrong with any one of those components, it can get pretty expensive. So that's why I, as an agent, and most agents, never recommend that you skip a home inspection. Now, are there any times where it might make sense to skip a home inspection? We'll discuss a few of the potential possibilities now. But let me say this, I never recommend doing that. You have to really assess what type of risk you're willing to take. So one situation may be a newer home. If you have your eyes set on a newer home that's only a few years old, maybe 5, 10 years old, potentially you could skip the home inspection. There may not be much that gets discovered. So that could be an opportunity to skip the home inspection. Another opportunity is if you are going to put in a lowball offer. So what I tell my clients when they're interested in writing a lowball offer is you can't get everything. You can't usually get a home inspection, get a warranty, get all of these things, and also a great price off of the list price. Now, that will depend on whether the home is overpriced to begin with. But one thing that you could consider when writing a lowball offer to make the low offer more attractive is skipping the home inspection. Now, when I bought my personal residence, we skipped the home inspection, and that was because we wrote a low offer. This was several years ago, so it was a slightly different market. And also, I, as a real estate agent, have a more experienced eye when I'm looking at major components on a home. So I felt comfortable not doing a home inspection while getting a lower price. So it's just one of those things where you have to assess the risk. Is the $10,000 off, $20,000 off worth it to not do a home inspection? Now, another scenario where you may not do a home inspection is if there is an existing inspection on the house, often called a pre-inspection. So if that's the case, what will generally happen is I will review that pre-inspection with a client, and we will go over, each item that says that it's marginal or a safety concern, and talk about, how big of a deal each one of these is, and if they are willing to basically write an offer with none of these things being fixed, or writing an offer and asking for certain things fixed. Now, pre-inspection is not a perfect substitute for a whole home inspection that you do after you get the home under contract. The reason for that is, you'll look at the report that has the inspection on it, but sometimes, you'll see a small photo, but it doesn't really tell the whole story of what's going on. When you do a home inspection and hire your own inspector, you'll generally do a walkthrough. And so the inspector will point out the problems that they found and also answer any questions. So something that may look minor on paper might actually be pretty major. So that's why pre-inspections are good, but they're not perfect. Now, if you're not able to do the home inspection, there are some ways to offset the risk of not getting it done. One is the seller property condition disclosure. So that's the document that the seller has to fill out prior to listing their home. And in that document, it will really tell the story of the homeowner's experience in the home, if they've had any water damage. But what's also important is it will tell you maybe how old the roof is, maybe how old the heating and AC system are, any other major problems that the seller has experienced. Now, a big caveat of the property disclosure is the seller is supposed to answer everything truthfully, but they may be turning a blind eye to major problems. So they may say, no, this problem doesn't exist in the house, but it's because either one, they are ignoring it, or two, they're saying we're not trained for that, and so we don't think there's any problem. So you cannot rely solely on the property disclosure. But it's really useful for things like the age of the roof and the age of major components. Another way to offset risk is a home warranty. So let's say you found a home you really love. The roof is newer, but the heating and AC are really, really old, and everything else is pretty good. So one thing you could consider is purchasing a home warranty. So that will help cover any costs associated with the HVAC going down while you have the home warranty. So it doesn't cover everything, but if there are certain components of the home that are really old that could be expensive to replace, it could be a good option. Something else you can do is kind of a mini home inspection. So some inspectors locally have started offering a service where they will walk through the home with you during a showing. This is before you actually write an offer on the home, and spend an hour with you, kind of more doing a mini home inspection, more of a visual inspection, and tell you whether they think there's anything major that you should be concerned about. So it's not a perfect substitute for a whole home inspection, but it could be a good option. Another option could be a major component inspection. So this kind of tells the seller, we're not worried about any small stuff. We just want to make sure that maybe the roof is in good condition, or maybe that the HVAC is in good condition. So when you write the offer, you put in, we are only concerned about doing an inspection on the roof, and that's it. And then another option is an inspection for informational purposes only. This has started to become a little bit popular more recently. So what that is when you write an offer, what you're saying is we will do a home inspection, but we will not ask for any repairs. But we reserve the right to walk away if we find anything, I'd like to say major, but depending on how it's written, you could walk away for something that's minor. Some people have been writing in that we're going to do an informational purposes only inspection, and we will only walk away if we find a repair or something wrong that's $3,000 or more, or $5,000 or more. So this could be a good option. It's become more and more popular recently. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is working with an experienced real estate agent. So I've been in a lot of homes, and I've accompanied a lot of inspectors on their walkthroughs. And so I'm not a professionally trained inspector, but I have a lot of experience in identifying things that could be an issue. I will have clients where there is a home that has 5 or 10 or 15 offers, and I know that in order for them to be competitive, that they're going to have to skip the home inspection. And there have been times where my clients will flat out ask me, do you think it's smart to skip the home inspection? And I've told them, no, this home has too many issues and I would not feel comfortable with you guys writing an offer without a home inspection. And there's a chance they lose out on the house, but I don't want to put someone in a home where I know they're going to have issues. Now, I'm not a perfect substitute for a whole home inspection, but if you need to write an offer without a home inspection in order to stand a shot at getting that offer accepted, it's best to work with an experienced agent that knows what they're doing and can help identify any issues before you write an offer. Let's wrap this up. In the end, the decision to do a home inspection or not is yours. It's not my decision, it's your decision. So if you don't feel comfortable writing an offer without a home inspection, don't do it, and I certainly won't recommend it. If you have any additional questions about this topic or buying a home in general, please reach out. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, please consider subscribing to my channel and also hitting the like button below.